A warning to gang members from Oregon's top federal prosecutor.
A sweeping federal racketeering case that was announced today in Portland. It was all part of an attempt to shut down what is being described as brutal gang activity.
You've heard about the shootings, the murders, and the communities affected by gang violence in our area. But what's funding it? How are gangs making their money?
Viewer discretion is advised. They're the city's living nightmare.
We everywhere. Our turf is everywhere.
Hoover criminals, everybody killers. They're one of the most violent gangs in Portland right now.
They are the Hoover criminals. And in Portland, they'll use anything.
If it was an enemy, I'm trying to stab him with a screwdriver. I'm trying to stab him with a knife.
To take out their enemies.
The more they were killed, the more they were killing.
Hoover gang members go from like a 0 to violent immediately.
I don't think it'd be a pretty sight to really with the Hoovers. It's just Hoovers against the world.
Well, the accused gang members were already behind bars, but with the feds tying these cases together, it could mean the death penalty for these men if they are convicted. Now, the U.S. Attorney for Oregon announced the racketeering case, which includes the indictment of 46-year-old Lorenzo Jones, accused of being a Hoover gang leader, responsible, they say, for 8 shootings and 2 murders, including the deaths of Asencio Garcia and Wilbert Butler, both of Portland. The indictment says the Hoover gang members commit violence to establish their position within the gang.
Wake up, because you will be held accountable. He announced charges today against a handful of men accused of murders and other crimes. Kylie Boshi's here now to break down the details of today's indictment. Kyle.
Well, a federal prosecutor said members of the Hoover criminal gang stood out because of their brutal acts of violence. Today, the U.S. Attorney for Oregon announced a new indictment against 46-year-old Lorenzo Jones for his role in the shooting deaths of 2 men and the attempted murder of 6 others. Fellow Hoover gang members Ronald Rhodes and Javier Hernandez were also charged in the racketeering conspiracy case.
Jones and his fellow Hoovers stand out among street gangs in their propensity for brutal acts of violence. They engage in violence for the sake of violence, to maintain and bolster their positions in the gang and among rivals.
If convicted, federal prosecutors warned the men could each face a maximum sentence of death or life in prison.
Jones is alleged to have engaged in a 30-year pattern of violent racketeering activity dating back to nearly as long as the Hoover Gang has existed in Portland, Oregon. Our charges allege that beginning in at least 1989 and continuing until December 2017, Jones was individually responsible for at least 8 shootings and 2 murders. The intent is to hold leaders of organizations accountable for crimes they either ordered others to do and assisted them in doing. It's about going after leadership.
Now, the cases tied together also include that of Ronald Rhodes, charged with killing Kyle Polk in 2015. Gang member Javier Hernandez, also named in the indictment, is connected with the Polk killing, according to federal prosecutors. Now, the U.S. Attorney says his message to gang members is to wake up and realize you will be held accountable. Again, they could seek the death penalty in these cases. Live in downtown Portland, Lisa Balick.
At the heart of the bloodshed stands one street gang, the Hoover criminals.
A group of Hoover gang members, 3 firearms, 1 sawed-off shotgun, and 2 pistols, all on them. They're way away from their home area.
The Hoover gang members are among the worst gangs we have here in Portland.
The Hoovers are ruthless, and their crimes range from drug dealing to home invasions and dogfighting.
Or whatever your hustle is, selling dope, robbing people, however you choose to go get it, that's how you're gonna go get it.
In a city that is 75% white, the Hoovers stand out. Yet this small gang has earned a big rep for committing the majority of the city's gang crimes.
If you look at the whole situation, starting with the rivalries from way back to the dog fight, to the statements and things that were said after the dog fight, to the homicide, and to the follow-up homicide, it certainly makes sense.
The Portland PD has made some headway in fighting the city's gang problem, but it's an uphill battle.
You've heard about the shootings, the murders, and the communities affected by gang violence in our area. But what's funding it? How are gangs making their money?
If you guessed drugs, that would be appropriate, but you're wrong. Catherine Cook has been investigating this for months. And Catherine, you've uncovered a deepening connection between gangs and prostitution.
And Tracy, what began as a gang connection has quickly and discreetly turned into gang domination of Portland's sex trafficking industry. Police say that nearly every pimp they deal with has some kind of a gang connection, and the money they're making off teenage girls is pouring in from Lake Oswego to Gresham, where suburban Johns have no idea they are paying for the guns on our streets.
Lay dying on Northeast 18th Avenue. Do-rag shot by Bloods.
And Portland had a serious gang problem.
Gangs in Portland are nothing new.
Someone shot and killed. More shootings.
It's a little unnerving.
Decades of shootings, tears, retaliation. On the surface, nothing's changed. But go underground.
It's a big problem.
And you'll see.
Sex sells.
Where drug sales once funded gangs.
Gang members have come to realize there's a lot of money to be made in prostitution.
And police say they're making it in the millions.
That's how they buy guns. That's how they buy cars.
Sarah, not her real name, is a gang-affiliated prostitute.
It's an underground society.
We've disguised her voice and identity to protect her. She doesn't have a pimp now, but she knows how they work.
They're smart, and they're usually cute and charming.
She wants to expose what they're doing.
Women get raped, beaten, dragged. I mean, even just like if another pimp talks to you and you don't put your head down, you're considered out of pocket. That's part of the game, though. You're not considered a person anymore. You're considered property.
Mafia is the pimp's name. Loyalty to the game, loyalty to prostitution, loyalty to the pimp.
Officer Mike Gallagher is with the Portland Police Bureau's prostitution coordination team.
It's not, pretty women out there like it is in the movies. It's pretty horrific.
He says young victims of prostitution are brainwashed, vulnerable, and see their gang member pimps as boyfriends.
I know of pimps that are, 17, 18 years old that are out there recruiting now.
He says many victims wear these branding tattoos with pride.
Every time you look in the mirror, you're seeing that name, and it reminds you that you're property of whatever that pimp is that you're working for.
Gallagher says the connection between gangs and prostitution is new, destructive, and relatively unknown.
Traffickers,
He says nearly every convicted pimp on this wall has a gang tie.
I didn't see it 15 years ago.
Back then, Gallagher says gang members were still trading money and drugs on street corners, but things changed.
Drugs are getting expensive. You have to spend money to make money. Prostitution is you don't have to spend anything.
Pimps see their victims as cheap collateral. As for the Johns who pay them for sex, police say they're often married professionals, unarmed, and the last people police say would want to draw attention. In short, they're the perfect marks who don't realize or care where their money is really going.